some more folks show up. We're going to get this thing on the road at this point in time and take it from there. A couple things to keep in mind. Those of you who are students, when I was a student, basically, especially when I was at U of M, I would go to events like this, and we would pack baggies into our coats, and we would come watch the reading, do the things we had to do, and then go over there, open the baggies, and pile them in. Do you all follow me on this? This is to be understood as far as that goes. In fact, last night, the people from the food services said, tell the students to grab everything they can. So you don't grab the Coke, apparently, but everything else is fair game. I'm assuming students are the same as they were when I was a kid. This was before ramen noodles, and basically there was a period when I was a senior in college when I was smoking 2 packs of Camels a day at the time, non-filter, and I would give blood every 4 weeks so I could get more cigarettes, right? Because I didn't have money for it. And we found other ways to make money. Of course, that's an old hippie thing anyways, but the bottom line here is, if you're a student and you're poor, get over there after this thing's over with and grab what you can. Okay, that said, there's also from the library here, they've set up a selected bibliography of Grand Rapids poets' works, which is sort of nice. It's not exactly MLA, but it'll do the job. It's very thoughtful of them. Some of you may want to spot the, give me a minute here, I've been going for 10 hours. The display downstairs of the different poets and their works. There are also works for sale over here if anyone's interested, and we'll get it from there. Last bit before we start, you'll notice these white sheets on here. At the end of the night, and I'm sure some of you have heard that, Mursalata's here. How you feeling? Do you want to go first? Okay, so you guys all get together. I need to have you get together for a second, so come on over. I've been worried about you all day, so this is Eric. This is David. Okay, so I guess Mercilla is going to go forth. So glad you made it. Okay, so, all right, so last bit, the white sheets, I need to have everybody fill those out. We have to keep a count of how many people come to these things, and we also have to have your, what would you call it, your evaluation of the worthiness of the event, I guess is the way to put it. The main thing here is this is for the Macaca Grant, Michigan Council of Arts and Cultural Affairs. It will allow us to get the second part of the grant. I've already received the first, but it also will set us up if we have a large enough group over the 4 days to be able to get new grants later. And for those of you who are CC students, one of the things that separates universities and major colleges from community colleges very often is community colleges do not have, by and large, these big cultural events like this. And it's one of the things that is going to keep us in the top rank of the 2-year schools, is what it comes down to. This is a university-style colloquium that goes on for several days, and I want to make sure when I retire that other professors here can keep doing that, and I know there are some who will. So please help me, if you will, at the end of the night. So we'll start at the beginning. Todd Konecny. Todd teaches over at Grand Valley. He's a native of Seattle and has gotten a lot of publication. When Patricia Clark first mentioned him to me, I was looking for people for the anthology, and she said, you really ought to check this guy out. And sure enough, he's a good poet. Adds an enormous amount to our anthology that we're developing for publication. And I can't say much more other than, now you said it was a skull on your website?
That's a skull on my website.
Okay, so
Lots of them.
I thought it was like Captain America or something, but he's young, he's hot, let's get him up here.
This is rock and roll. This is loud. This is rock and roll. This is a death clutch, a bouquet of knuckles squeezed tight like an old man's heart, like lambskin. This is a rush of oxygen across slowed eyes, a plume of smoke billowing from exhausted lungs. This body's slow evaporation into night. This is a wish for a time machine. This is the tattoo of a man's skeleton across his widow's back, a shadow to ward off twilight's beetles. This is the ace of spades, a cow skull, a beer can, a sad jukebox abandoned on a mountaintop, a crescent moon hanging like a dagger over all our heads. This is the face of a girl in combat boots dancing for a tavern full of wolves. This is the hand of a shepherdess strangling ragged sailors. This is a housemaid breathing like a smokestack. This is the color of milk. This is a question about how we used to live. The blade anticipates goose flesh. The fist remembers a tangle of fleece, a jangle of coins lost to a pair of loaded dice and a buck knife. This is a trick of memory. This is a cowboy hat. This is a shoehorn. This is a girl half glimpsed through a forest of broken bottles. This is a decades-old mustache. This is not a six-gun. This is not the highway. This is not an autobiography. This is a blurry meadow soaked in midnight and gasoline. This is a secret longing for gentle fingers, for bare and bloodless feet in the river. This is the smack of whiskey and smoke in a schoolgirl's mouth. This is the scent of grass. This is a man's throat full of glass to justify who he is, those vicious sounds he's invented for desire. This is the shape of a woman's lips whispering the moon's name. New words for Triceratops. Extinction, again. Because the yard is filled with echoes when our volcanoes go silent, when our swamps are emptied of saurian cows. There are still bottles full of aspirin and whiskey for the porch, brains full of blood and idiocy for that day the riverbank crawls to the house and chases scaly spirits from where they lodge wet in the basement. Never mind our bodies lying bird-hipped, snapped, bangles of deciduous bone wrecked for the geologic record. When the sparrows remember jangling about the Cretaceous in armor and horn, when eagles reveal secret desires for airplanes, when the buffaloes bellow for asteroids leveled at the prairie, our skeletons will tell us about the creatures we were, about the beasts we hope to become. Somewhere, there's a girl who twists limbs from rag dolls. Somewhere, a boy with a dinosaur head. So many of the things we wish for are things without breath. We don't need to hear a word. Just say our names as the world begins its slow wink into night. B-movie. Nothing can bring a man and a woman together like a dino shark. That 150 million year old fish with a face like a chainsaw. You are a marine biologist in hot shorts, and I am an unemployed crocodile wrestler. We'll get suspicious after your sister, a sorority girl at Western Michigan University, goes missing on 4th of July weekend. No one notices that all the grizzled fishermen are absent, but when all those chicks on jet skis have been consumed, someone calls the cops. The rest of the state is skeptical, but when that creature pulls a school of parasailors out of the sky, the army is called in to destroy everything. In the end, it'll just be you, me, and that gigantic fin skimming the water. I'll grab it by the gills, and you will puncture its eye with a leftover bottle rocket. We will act fast, but we don't have to act well, because this is all we need. The lake, a spark, and our sandals waiting for us at the dock. I want to thank David Cope for inviting me to be a part of this shindig. It's an honor and a privilege to be a part of the Grand Rapids Poetry Conference. Even better, the first Grand Rapids Poets Conference, the first annual, I hope. So thank you. When I was a kid, I used to watch wrestling with my dad. It was I'd go to his house on the weekends, and if I was good, only if I was good, I'd get to stay up till midnight, and we'd watch Big Time Wrestling, this show out of Portland in the late '80s. The guy I hated was Playboy Buddy Rose, and Playboy Buddy Rose was this kind of doughy wrestler, and he'd been introduced. He'd always introduced he'd interrupt the announcer. He'd say, "I do not weigh 271 pounds. I weigh a slim, trim 217. This is called Playboy Buddy Rose knows how much he weighs. No one wants to be a bad guy, but to me, Buddy Rose will always be 217 pounds. My father said I was too short to grow into a professional wrestler. Every other weekend, the Playboy postured in my father's living room, half-cocked in glitz and bleach-damaged hair. Not my father's house, but 30 minutes south in Portland where men wore tights, grappled for honor and the love of a good knuckle sandwich. Before I threw my first punch, before I understood it's not easy being the bad guy, my father told me wrestling was fake, a skit of blood and teeth for old men and slow children. He told me to study if I wanted to be a doctor, but Buddy Rose was a Las Vegas hog, flaunting his sallow physique, jiggling all over in a full Nelson before tumbling out of the ring head first. Back then, I just wanted to see the Playboy get his heavy ass kicked. I wanted my father to show me how a good man makes a fist out of soft fingers. I wanted to know what Buddy Rose probably knew back then as he stomped back to his dressing room. There's no such thing as a good guy. Only men who look good. This is an awful love poem. This is for Caitlin. I for an animal. When I give to you a bouquet of duck's tongues, a handful of stony gizzards, a calf's liver still heavy with iron, your heart will thank me before your taste buds acknowledge that I am here. The eyes are precious parts for a fish. The cheeks, the daintiest pieces of any creature's head. Let's eat them all together. Feast on the courage it takes to put strange things in our mouths. You say you don't believe in hog moths, chitterlings, or tripe. My body is silky like a bull's oyster, crooked like a chicken's foot. When the pigs are led by the snout from their pens, when the cows are divided into steaks, we can sleep together, amorous in the leavings of offal. Hunger is born as desire blossoms into a vacuum. The snake's heart beats long after it is severed from the body. Let's serve it late at night to one another. Split it in half and hope it burns as it goes down. B movie. We can be teenagers again in 1985. You are a beautiful computer hacker riding her moped in an infectious laugh to my house in Arlington, where I am a champion Ms. Pac-Man player with a pocket full of quarters. We will use my Tandy 1000 to dial into the Pentagon because we don't know the difference between binary fission and love. I'll accidentally launch a cluster of missiles at the USSR because we don't understand that there is no difference between Inky, Blinky, and thermonuclear war. The FBI will take us into custody, call the army, and to destroy everything. We'll be saved when you persuade the president to let me have one last crack at a kill screen. As everyone watches those bombs spread their hot brand of death across the globe, we'll make out while everyone remembers to forget we are in the room. I got some poems about my family. My father and my grandparents were interned in Minidoka, a camp in Idaho during World War II. I just finished a manuscript about that. So here's some poems from that book, manuscript. It'll be a book one day. Idaho. Now imagine your family hunkered down for winter in hen houses in pig pens. Across the landscape lie those outlines of rough and ready warrens, those rubbled dens for miserable beasts. In old movies, prisoners carve hidden tunnels through forests to Switzerland in black and white. In ancient tales, hapless peasants escape dungeons aided by a crown of bees or feathers plucked from mystical birds. This is Camp Minidoka, now reduced to a sly blemish on that countryside where your family imagined escape, where they were broken in pieces, one for a shovel, one for the chickens, the rest scattershot like broken glass across the prairie. Strip off your boots, relish each ancient shard as you hike back to the car. According to the report of the Commission on Wartime, Relocation, and Internment of Civilians, they did this report, and what they found was that the Nisei, the second-generation Japanese, they told their children, they said, don't make waves, don't stand out, you're different enough anyways. Some chose not to tell their children of Japanese Americans' wartime suffering because they felt that ignorance would prevent bitterness and make them better Americans. This is called, they say, this is how the bone sings. When the night looms inaudible beyond our lanterns, when our parents smother us to conceal our bodies from a lurid moon, remember that forgetful city where children wait for woodsmen to rescue their carcasses, where a man might eat meat without bones for weeks before thinking about his brood. Boys are slain wrestling wild boars in these woods. Girls are murdered gathering jonquils in dry meadows. Listen to that racket made by panicked bees as they ascend toward oblivion each winter, to the owl's questions about tiny bodies concealed in unimaginable places. When I die, I hope my children will carve a flight of flutes from my ribcage, a symphony to reveal every scar on my father's body, a song proclaiming we are no longer dead. Legacies of camp. 1, the first rule in talking about camp is we do not talk about camp. 2, Minidoka is a Lakota word for water. Relocation is a polite way of talking about internment. Camp, a fancy word for prison. Minidoka. 3, the cage is the skeleton for grief. Grief, the mantle worn by shame. Shame, the fuel for a tone-deaf heart. 4, they say this is where the witch burned, where the ogre lost its heart. Sing a real song for imaginary creatures. Keep it simple so the ghosts can sing along. 5, men bruised by sticks, men pummeled by stones, men disintegrated by wind, men gashed to pieces by wild animals, men shredded by flights of dark birds, men evaporating into morning. 6, what turns kings into beasts, princesses into crones hungry for dusk? How do we lose our ancestors still living in barren houses next door? What do horses dream about, buttressed by the rigor mortis of night? Remember, we do not talk about camp. 7, the second rule, there are no trick questions. Only bear traps poised silent in hope that someone will talk about camp. 8, the cage houses the heart of the ogre, the glamour bewitching the wilderness. We live at the fringe of awful desire, that ragged edge of twilight where the ocean devours the shore. Remember the cage. 9, they say those ruins are nearly swallowed by the Idaho scrubland. I've seen ruins posing as old men on bar stools, women cloaked in thorns and shark's teeth. We do not talk about ruins. 10, men who smoke in restaurants, men who try to quit smoking, men who try to quit smoking for their children, men who smoke only when drinking, men who smoke in cars with the windows rolled up, men who smoke in secret places, men who never knew they were on fire. 11, the cage shelters us from despair. Despair, the ocean lapping at our knees. Fear, the eels wriggling electric on the incoming tide. The cage holds everything we do not talk about. 12, third rule, do not speak. Listen to buzzards, pasted against every sunset, to alley cats yowling lonesome in the glow of night. That is a soliloquy of ruin. This is the hush of mushrooms on fallen trees. 13, stories are tiny prisons built to house our secrets. We live in cages still. My grandmother's legs remain browned by barbed wire. My grandfather's tongue lay caked in dust. They are both dead. It was goddamn camp. We can't talk about it. B movie. Weeks after the rest of the human race has been turned into zombies by fallout by nuclear warfare, I'm an army scientist holed up and running out of antivirus just outside Iowa City. You can be a sexy bow hunter whose body has built up an immunity to zombie disease. We will be exhausted after 45 minutes of being pursued by ravenous monsters, after we witness your shitty ex-boyfriend get split by a wishbone by the undead. We'll hightail it out to the cornfields, where we'll discover an abandoned army laboratory. We can try to radio for help, but all we'll get are some test tubes and an old biology textbook. We'll make out in the supply closet, because we are still alive. And then we'll create antivirus from your blood, because there is no army to come destroy anything. We'll be in love in the end, because it will be just you with arrows dipped in medicine, and me hacking at zombies with a machete. I've only got like a couple more. I want to say that I've got a broadside back by the books. It's a free broadside, a B-movie broadside that you can pick up and just remember a B-movie. Some of you are going to turn 40 one day. Some of you have already turned 40. Some of us have already turned 40. So we understand what it means to be 40. And the rest of you, you're going to turn 40 one day. It'll happen if you're lucky. This is called 40. And suddenly, anything is possible. Nothing is inevitable, the way sunrise brings us nearer to snowfall. Tonight, no one makes love. Everyone makes love tonight. Young girls in negligees, thin like the wind, with men shirtless and twirling B-movie mustaches. We will sweat until the breeze grows thick with falling leaves and the sounds of traffic under the bed. Afterwards, we'll smoke cigarettes on the fire escape. We'll start smoking if we need to, because suddenly nothing is impractical. We have wallets bursting with 20s, lips slick with lipstick, and hearts pumping blood so hot our bodies steam in the nights. We don't want to sweat until our next paycheck. Nothing is worth sweating for except for the way you stir the air like a tornado, like the echo of my electric guitar in that parking lot, or our friends drive off with different hookers each night, like smoke and applause and ghosts. Everyone makes love for different reasons. Fingers gripping the edges of desks, faces jammed against rear windows, roaring like forests ablaze. Tonight, our clocks stop. Our calendars drop their pages because this is not the end tonight. We remain ageless until the air stops. I have a few students here. You can look around and see them. They're the ones who look like they're up to no good. This one's for my students. This one has an epigraph from Kesha. She says, "If I smear glitter on my face, you don't have a choice. You will be more attracted to me." Pop song. Remember junior high school when we were 13 going on 20? Our Adam's apples blossoming in throats like swamps. Our bodies refused to be defined by our undergarments because we were so hot. That's why this poem looks like a cigarette dangling from the lips of a boy who's too old for you. Smells like a girl, tastes like bubble gum. This poem wants you dancing in a cage at the zoo, in the back of seat of a Camaro all night long. Listen to this poem as we wait outside a 7-Eleven for someone to buy us beer, as we make sexy eyes to the tinted windows of your parents' BMW so no one suspects we've never driven on the freeway. That's why this poem wears plastic angel wings, a pleather skirt, and a body that glitters like dewdrops on peaches. This poem needs you dancing like cheerleaders in heat, like sweaty cobras flexing in the locker room. Mouth these words as you undulate at football games, at basement sleepovers, in handcuffs, in California. Let's party with this poem in seedy motels on school nights. Jump on the bed, recite this poem into your hairbrush so your drunk friends will shout it back at you. That's why this poem sits in your mouth like old sugar, corrosive like Pepsi, foxy like saccharin. As you drive to work every Monday, this poem wants to feel you dance like you've lost all control of your body, like you will never have control of anything. Here's my last poem. It's National Poetry Month, right? We all know that. So some of us fools write a poem a day. This is the one I wrote last night. That was a lie. It was the night before last. This one's called B Movie. It will be 1977 in Oregon, and we will be on a blind date at the county fair in its last weeks. It will be spring, and you are a newspaper reporter working on a story about runaway teenagers. I'm an amateur stand-up comedian trying to win a giant stuffed beaver for you at the Monkey Darts. It'll be almost dusk, and screams emanate from an arsenal of rides: the electric death octopus, the moon skate, the haunted mortality chamber. You won't laugh at my jokes, and no one believes in your theory about disappearing homeless kids in the Portland area until I see that fat clown swallow a raggedy boy whole, wispy sideburns and all. We run to find a security guard, but are intercepted by a mob of hungry clowns pouring out of a dusty Volkswagen Beetle. They chase us through the food circus, chomping on unwary families, and there won't be time to call the army in to destroy anything. We can hide in the house of broken mirrors, or I will tell you jokes to settle your nerves. You still won't laugh, but then a heavy clown cackles until he explodes, a blossom of white face paint and guts. I tell every joke I know, and you stab every red bulbous nose with your number 2 pencil. There'll be plenty of time for us to make out after the last of those painted cannibals have been ruptured, after we are safe outside the fairground gates. You'll say knock, knock. I'll say who's there. We'll hold that kiss until the credits roll. Thank you.
Wow. Well, we'll go from one end of Grand Valley to the other. Eric Grinkie, how would I start with Eric Grinkie? He was the first person that came up with the notion of Grand Rapids as Paris on the Grand. Is that right? Okay. Paris on the Grand. The idea that we could have an indigenous culture here that has its own self-definition, that has its variety and its wonders of its own, that don't have to go elsewhere, which is one of the notions I've kept all these years. It's the reason I set up this conference when you get down to it, as far as you follow it back to the root. So I owe Eric a lot of things. He was the one that persuaded me to become a small press publisher, and a lot of other things, I suppose. I suppose we'd have to talk about how, if you go to Grand Valley, Amaranthus magazine is his baby. It's there because of him. He was one of the people that was among the student poets and others who put on the National Poetry Festivals in the 70s, which brought some of the hottest, newest, most interesting poets in the country here year after year. And if I look at my generation, part of what defines us is we went to those festivals and we were able to spread out, see what everybody else was doing elsewhere, bring it back home, and it made us far more sophisticated as poets. One of the things I've talked about all the way through this thing is the idea that you have to have your indigenous culture, but it cannot be something that is separated from what's going on elsewhere. The beauty of what we see in the Grand Rapids Poets, when the anthology comes out, we stretch all the way from Romania to Poland to Ireland and hundreds of other places. It's almost as though what I saw when I gathered these poems together was an enormous group of people who were here, but also there. You notice with Todd, he took us to Portland a great deal. So if I talk about Eric, he was a poetry writing teacher at the Grand Rapids City High. He was a bookseller. He was a literary publisher and continues to be a literary publisher. He's been a clinical social worker, and he has published an enormous number of books. If I were to say the last bit, his books are distributed in 25 countries and translated into 8 languages. One of our elders, one of our real masters here that has been hiding out in Rockford. Come on, Eric. It's all yours.
Thanks, Dave. Take this off. I'm already sweating. No, I think we better go serious now. The vampires. Vampires have a lot to answer for. They wear formal wear, while they siphon the blood from virginal peasants, many in their own employ. They slink around under cover of night, suddenly appearing at the sides of their sleeping victims with no regard to privacy. They are sensitive to the price of silver, as well as certain commodities, not to mention real estate, not to mention blood banks, butcher shops, orthopedic offices. They skip every holiday but one. They are dead on the run. Their memories are long, as are their teeth and nails, but they have no patience, especially for the weak living. Asleep in material fortresses where no mirrors dare reflect, they dream of dying until waking to hunt the souls of the living, ultimate dark muggers. Who the hell are these bastards? Why are they in charge? The streets run red, streams carry the blood to the sewer arteries to mingle with the melting sea. You might be a vampire if you're still talking a year after your funeral. You might be a bloodsucker if you fall asleep to awaken in somebody's nightmare. You might be a vampire if all the murders increase your profits. You might be a vampire if everyone you see looks like fresh meat. This would be a good place to live if it wasn't for the damn vampires. You see them lurking everywhere nowadays, drinking in bars, flying on planes, plastic surgery, cosmetics, vodka. They insidiously develop land deals. They compulsively gamble in casinos. Their breaths reek of blood. Their immortal souls are lost forever in congressional rolls. Nature preserve. In the woods behind my home is a nature preserve. Its central feature is a lake. It takes me about an hour to walk around it. There are no dogs allowed, no fires, no swimming, no boating, no metal detectors, no camping, no horses, no picnics, no. I am to fish only in designated areas. I am to walk clockwise around the lake or be stopped by the tall steel turnstile. Last winter, the newspaper printed a letter from a group of malcontents who crusaded to get rid of the beavers for chewing down the birch trees. Another group began a campaign to get rid of the dread purple loosestrife, a tall flower that grows by the water's edge in a manner offensive to nature. Right now, the focus is on the distasteful blue spruce, which the officials of the preserve deem to be opportunistic and unwelcome among the natives. They're building a trail that will penetrate to the heart of the wildest part of the park, leading from the township center, easy access for all who prefer their wildlife preserved. Memory. I wake in Civil War, play endless games of solitaire. I die and am reborn. I breathe until my breath is torn by unexpected stare or look in mirror, sudden laugh or uninvited tear. No one knows how slowly I have grown. No one knows the feelings I alone have given skin and bone to float like ghosts past shadows of the piers and reefs, then rise on bells to walk asleep through burning cities of white peace, where green dreams bloom on the pastures and plains of my newly wounded hands. Clown. I do not know me, but a train of thought drags me through illusory galaxies where silly circus music mocks my mortal wounds while I run in circles wearing shoes that don't fit. An unfortunate immigrant, buffeted by forces of history, I somehow manage a foolish laugh, released from myself, detached, my face a funny mask. Here's a narrative. Ceasefire. Russ and Dave were brothers, and they were funny guys, good buddies to play war with. Dozens of boys would gather to shoot BB guns at each other in the woods behind their house. One summer day, I went to play war with Russ and Dave, I had the single-shot Daisy with me that my father gave me before he left. From down the block, I could see the police cars and ambulance on their front lawn, right up against the big maple we had all climbed together the day before. Dave was led in tears to the police car. Russ was carried to the ambulance, but it didn't leave. They'd been playing with their father's 12-gauge shotgun. Russ came around a corner, and his brother shot him in the chest from the hip. We didn't see Dave for a year. They sent him off to a group home in Colorado for the 7th grade. When he returned, he wasn't the same. He cried easily and never smiled. For a while, after Dave killed Russ, we all stopped playing war. None of my friends shot anyone for the rest of that hot summer when the war took David's brother. Refrain. Apocalyptic moments recall scenes of adolescent glory. The man in the moon transforms into an ancient pock-marked battlefield. What goes up experiences gravity right into the grave. Even so, I light my best smile and continue to write my life, anticipation mitigated by anonymous regret. Happy to be sane underneath the sun, although arraigned by prosecutions of shame, I do not refrain. Persona. Coming into another spring, 60 summers down, white light burns me through dark days. I peel the layers from the onion of memory, given the gravity of the grave. So now my persona is consuming my doppelganger. I feel the triumph of stone traveling from gravel to dust, the fading smile of a waning moon, another seizure on the seismic meter, still one more tattoo on the face of my battered public bust. The mist. I wander through memory caverns in search of the elusive present, like a big fish that struggles upstream to spawn in time's river one last time. Like a mad wind in an ancient storm, dead friends pierce the peaceful solitude where I have come to take my soft rest in the depth of a winter night's dream. In the arid badlands of desire, past the long watches of sleepless nights, I hold communion with those lost ghosts, even as I pass into the ever-darkening mist. Here's another narrative. There and back. This is for an old friend of mine, Brad Harris. Going to the 1968 Democratic Convention seemed like fun. I talked my friend Brad into it, though he was apolitical. Only a 3-hour drive from Grand Rapids to Chicago. Abby Hoffman and Hunter S. Thompson would be there to support the poet candidate, Eugene McCarthy. We'd read the notices in the Village Voice. We felt there would be chicks there who believed in free love. Brad had an old red Volkswagen. We had painted the doors with big white peace signs. We wore beads and chin beards, long hair, and personalized holy blue jeans. One of us even wore granny glasses. When we got to Chicago, Grant Park was cordoned off by police barriers, so we stayed safely on the perimeter. We saw others running scared and bloodied on the head by Chicago cops, but no one bothered us. It went on for 2 days with us on the edge of the action. We slept in the Volkswagen on a side street until the third night when McCarthy had been robbed and defeated, Humphrey Clown substituted, the protesters beaten and jailed. We were leaving when a carload of drunken local teenagers pulled up alongside, threw a bottle at us, and yelled that they were going to kill us fucking hippies. They started to chase us through town. Brad began to panic. He just couldn't think fast enough. "Tell me what to do," he said. At one point, they blocked us into a blind alley. They got out with clubs and tire irons and ran toward us. "Drive right over that curb," I said, and we clumped over. It was one of those situations when time stretches out into slow motion. That's when we made a big mistake and turned the car onto the Eisenhower Freeway. Their big Buick rear-ended us, pushing the poor Volkswagen faster than it could go. The axle cracked in half and the bug rolled up a shoulder to collapse at a precarious angle, ticking its last heartbeats. We got out and ran. We climbed a chain-link fence, crossed some railroad tracks and hid in a doorway as they crept past, looking to finish us. We got to a police station, but they didn't care. A black man took us via the L to the Greyhound station. The bus terminal was crowded with escaping demonstrators. Cops were herding people in a circuit up the escalator and back down the other side. We had to keep moving until our bus was announced. Brad was upset about the loss of his car. No chicks, yippies, or fun. I was upset that the attackers had been our own age. All the way home, I digested the sour truth. It would never be easy to distinguish our friends from our enemies again. Here's a prose poem. Dream home. In the home of the clown, there are many rooms. In the den, a statue of the Buddha palms some coins of the realm. In the bedroom, oversized clown slippers, clown boots, and clown flip-flops are scattered on the floor, like beached whales. There also stands the dressing table with its oval mirror ringed with solar bulbs. The clown looks into the mirror and sees a wise man with a big red nose. Books line the library walls, but they're all blank except one. The music room is full of drums. The clown beats the drums to celebrate sunrise and sunset each day. The living room floor is covered with pillows and balloons of every color. Calliope music plays continuously. The clown lives tenderly alone in his dream home. Another prose poem, Cave of the Spirits. I dreamt that the sight of the underground passages filled our hearts with an unknown light. Spirits lived in the caverns and in the giant domed treasure room at its very center. We laughed as we entered the chamber to see the profuse silver leaves and gold apples and the many metallic plaques covered with stars, moons, suns, and snakes. The luminous snakes were crawling up pyramids, striving for the summits, flying through the heavens with a trail of fire or lying on the reflective golden heads of the gods. The cave was deep, warm, and wide. No one wanted to wake, but some of us couldn't help it. Brief nudity. You may glimpse it as you feel your way to the refrigerator at midnight, or while giving birth at 3 a.m., or maybe in the damp restroom of an old off-Broadway theater where you may catch it revealed proudly and professionally by a promising younger actor. If you happen to see it in a good, clear mirror, you will most likely focus directly on your expressive eyes, except when your hair requires a combing, or a trim, or a better color, or to be conditioned for greater volume or thinned to reveal or conceal you. October. It's 6 a.m. in the universe and cold. The yellow sun makes another dawn in the lake above my head. Warm blue air lifts the blanket from my bed. Yesterday I wiped my father's blood from the white cloud walls of my home in another dream. Now, awake beneath the lake, I am alone. The cold gray water of the lake invites me in, but then I am rescued by my lover, the sun. A funny one. Gland Hotel. The beautiful blonde in the black bikini strokes the contours of a chrome peach. She eats it with a flash of silver teeth. The carpet is eggshell. The walls are pastry and cream. She consumes a chocolate chair with joy. Marshmallow trucks melt down vanilla highways. Toffee-flavored airplanes buzz above. She smiles, and they puff apart and blow away. Caramel men and mint women swim in the lovely milk pool. She drains it, leaving them high on the blueberry tile. Mechanical sausages fry on ice cream grills. Steel-belted onions lie in bins of cheese. The wonderful blonde in the black bikini opens her clever mouth, gulps it all down, and smiles, satisfied for now. Traveling music. The wounded moon begins its long descent. A stable of restless horses whinnies in the glad wind. Uprooted trees roam south in search of higher ground. We are penetrated by the water of the perfect rainstorm, leaking into the bloodied ground, leaking into the flesh of stone where the hot earth's heart pumps mountains skyward to break like waves on salty desert palms or plains. These, starting with that one, there's about 4 of them that develop a kind of a running metaphor here, using the flowing water. In the wake. Halfway through hurricane season, the lost rain returned to the body. Sad monsoon after the big wave that flooded our defenseless cups, that left us waterlogged but thirsty, even as the angry tide receded, even as the ancient tears ran undammed from new eyes that opened underwater to see the useless furniture swirling inexorably toward the sucking drain, whirlpooling with dollar bills into a foreign currency, faces adrift in low vapor, shoreline lined with dying dreams, fading in, out. As we turn our attention toward the eternal magnet at the center of the galaxy, let us attempt to pause where a pause is impossible, to stance before the shaggy beast that guards our illusions in the prison of our dreams. In the hard rain that beats away at our poor, deteriorating roofs, we search for cover, but instead find only diaries of lost childhood scattered across lighted pools of fantasy, floating amid some special toys, forgotten but not lost. Yet the long days drift by in currents both dark and light, still all like storm-lost branches out of reach, while on the temporal shore we see our unnatural enemies as well as our intentional friends, passing on their journeys to where even oceans must drain. When fathers die, their sons inherit their father's memorabilia, but both of their memories are lost forever in an infinite pause, frozen wavelets in the margin between the edge of the universe and our elusive reflections. And this is the last of that little group there. This is my favorite new one here. Flood tide. Another day surges over the horizon, flotsam sloshing through its dark sluice. Loose pages drift in pools like travelers asleep beneath the hills. There is no bowl to contain our tears, just flooded floors in a hastily abandoned factory. Though pleasure pours like rain, we swim on until dark, emerging from the water's edge, smelling like wet sand. Submerged beneath our common respiration, we wonder if the ocean breeze will keep us on course or blow us back into ourselves. We have thrown down our breathless waves, arriving home late, but still somehow hopelessly adrift. There is no pail for love, even though we've wrapped ourselves within each other's arms. Each of us still drowns alone. This is my free advice one that I usually end with, but I don't know how much time I got. How am I doing, Dave? Yeah, just okay, I'll just do this one. What to do next? You arrive at the station with your pockets full of time. You're so invisible that girls walk right through you. Throw away your ticket, skate away. The clouds burn out and ashes rain upon your head. Your bones ache from being used as jail bars. Get up and move on to the next holdup. A dog on the coffee table. A roller derby in the ice cream. A piano roaring down the road. A monkey with a gun has got you covered. Keep your eyes straight ahead. She has too much, but she wants a little more. The room is loud, and the walls are turning brown. Your ears are burning with old sounds. Don't die. Just take a deep breath, get up, and fly.
My old bones on these long 11-hour days. Dave Landrum. I first encountered Dave's work when I was judging the Dire Ives Poetry Contest, the Kent County competition. And I immediately fell in love with his work because he has this fascinating ability to cement an image in a way that has both personal and historical resonances. I think that's the simplest way I would put it. Dave is one of these folks that I think is going to be an emerging writer that's going to have big books down the road. He has it's both the familial and the personal, but it also is the resonance of history, I guess what we'd say. Is this your first one, poetry? Okay, so Impossibility of Epithalamia. It's a hell of a title. His online journal, Lucid Rhythms, is available, and he's pretty extensively represented on the web as well. So this is one of these poets that I look at him and I'm thinking to myself, hope I'm here in 15 years to see what he's doing then. So, Dave.
Well, thanks for that introduction. I'd like to start out with 4 poems that have placed in the diaries over the years, over the many years that I've entered it. A lot more haven't placed than have placed. First one's called Gary, 1961. Years ago, in 1961, we saw them. My cousin Leroy and me, boys in the grit and soot of Gary, Indiana, watched a wedge of Canada geese cut the air above the toxic dust that settled from steel mills to coat trees, swing sets, and clotheslines in my uncle's backyard. You could see Gary all the way from DeMont back then, and you could smell it all the way from Crown Point. You could see the orange cloud the steel mills made billowing like an angry genie, granting the wishes of industrialists for wealth and power, but spitefully scattering acid on the ground below as ribbons of steel ran, and the furnaces created poisonous salamanders that burrowed down into the soil and thrashed in the waters of Lake Michigan. He and I were enraptured, watching the perfect wedge of birds cut the clean air up above, geese honking, going north to clearer nesting grounds, rolling their wings slowly above the patch of foulness where we stood, our feet soaking up the death of PCBs and sulfur dioxide, gums bleeding from heavy metals, noses constricted and lungs aching from coal and lime, filtering silent as death into our blood. Leroy's dad, my father's brother, died of lung cancer, even though he retired to a warm, clean air refuge in Arkansas. Leroy's wife would later kill him with a gun, years later during some drunken, pointless lover's quarrel. The mills in Gary are shut down now, the air even a little cleaner than it was back then. No more orange clouds or pollutants that would dissolve my Aunt Jerry's nylons if she hung them outside to dry. I wonder if the geese have found another route in the shape of a sideways V up above it all, above the sin and pollution, up where everything is colder but clearer, where human folly is only a smudge on the landscape far below. And I wonder if boys still stop and gaze up at them and marvel at their airy symmetry. Now, this one's called Eagle River. It's very short, and I think it needs a little explanation. There's a monastery up on the Upper Peninsula at the town of Eagle River. And the monks there do what monks do a lot. They sell things to make money to support their monastery. These guys sell jelly. And one time when we were there, it just kind of struck me the irony of these guys punching cash registers and doing looking on computers to see what their inventory stock is. And they're representing like a tradition that goes back 1,500 years. So this is called Eagle River. The brothers at the monastery here make thimbleberry jelly that they sell to tourists on their way to Mackinac. Their abbey is a small one, tucked away deep in the aspen woods. A waterfall that cascades clear and cold over a mass of black slate rocks, then goes down to the lake, is right beside them, pouring day and night into the vastness of Superior. Now, this one is called Relic. I am wandering into the realm of relics, shelves stocked with Erdel's 92 beer, Wiedemann's, Falls City, Falstaff, car lots full of Studebaker, Cord, and Kaiser, called a Henry J. In my cabinet, Carter's Little Liver Pills, Castoria for stomach aches. On my mind, Jingles for Ipana toothpaste, Wild Root hair oil. I am familiar with barber shops, pool halls, delivery of coal, doorstep milk in thick glass jugs glistening with sun, wet with morning dew. When I see old movies, I realize the world looked that way when I roamed alleys before computers sat at every desk or compact discs whirled. Now it looks so different. I approach a shadowy storage place stocked with typewriters, carburetors, slide rules, fountain pens, inner tubes. I am expected. And then this last one, called Photograph, Easter Sunday, 1956, based on an actual photograph I came across when I was going through my mom and dad's photographs after they passed on. Photograph, Easter Sunday, 1956. In front of our Buick Roadmaster, with the grill that looked like Teddy Roosevelt's teeth, we are standing, my father, brother, and I. It is Easter, and we're ready to take off for church. We did not normally go, but my mother must have talked my father into it. We wear white shirts and clip-on bow ties, my father's shock of hair combed back, my brother chubby-cheeked, our hair cut short, tow-headed boys not used to dressing up. It was a momentary innocence, that scene on Easter Day. I felt like the apostles must have felt when they saw, or thought they saw, their rabbi once more come back from the dead, their joy, their speechlessness as they saw him eat some fish and honeycomb, their hope that he might, at this time, usher the kingdom in. After that, they would all die martyrs' deaths, James beheaded, Peter crucified upside down, Thomas killed in India. And things would change. The church would organize. Someone named Saul, then later Paul, would take the faith to the Gentiles and would write down things hard to be understood, as Peter said. And so it was with us. The ugly quarrels, recrimination, then my dad's withdrawal, my mother's bitterness, our own 30 years' war that left the family fragmented, children gone like refugees to found new lives. My parents, though, at peace, like two exhausted nations, too bankrupt to keep fighting. All of this had not yet come. That day in spring saw Lily's innocence in white shirts and blonde hairs, bow ties striped red, and promise rising from a borrowed tomb. Okay, some other poems then. Now this one is a rhyming metrical poem. I wrote those two, and it's a sonnet. This poem is called Les Halles, 1957. And now I write about Grand Rapids. And if you hang out at the bitter end, the wall that they have all the posters and pictures, this picture is there. And I think as I go over it, if you're familiar with the place, you'll recognize what I'm saying. So Les Halles, 1957, from a photograph by Frank Horvath. He wears a tux. She wears a close-fit dress, probably pink, it seems. The photograph is black and white, so we can only guess. The bartender looks bored. His hands are clasped, his eyes half closed. The young woman leans, bent, toward the tux man in a posture of delight, smiling, perhaps responding to the scent of the latte he has bought for her. The night is lit by blazing lamps hung from the ceiling. Two pair of men sit at the other end of the bar. The one with a mustache is stealing a glance at the girl and at her well-dressed friend. A shabby man wearing a bowler hat is shuffling in, as furtive as a cat. Now, this one calls Dangerous Saints, and it begins with a quote by Elie Wiesel from his short novel, Dawn. Saints make no noise, Elie Wiesel. Their purposes are clear as the light of God, elaborate as his many names. Their hands are steady hands clasped in adoration of the unseen, cleansed hands that reach without guilt for destructive instruments, the filthy lucre of ideology, and unclean aids to achieve their holy ends. Saints know the violence of vows that shut the gullible in cloister walls and point potentiality to narrow shores. Denial of the body's life and of its appetites is but a single step from reveling in the holy roar of firearms, epiphany of an explosive best, detonation, guns, recoil. All variable service, nuances in a seamless litany that flattens life to single purposes. The saints are silent even when they eat. and this is a short poem called The Mathematics of Sin. Now, I got this idea, if you multiply a positive number by a negative number, you get a negative number. If you multiply two negative numbers, it becomes a positive numbers. So if sin is something negative, if you do two sins, that must be positive. Or if the sin has a good motivation, it must be positive. So this is called The Mathematics of Sin. The time I did not turn the other cheek. The time I fought an unjust war against a herd of vampire bats in suits and ties. The time I said, the devil is an ass. The time I lied like the Egyptian midwives lied. The time I stole to study poetry. The rainy night I rested in your arms. Now, I've got my series too. I've got 3 poems on reincarnation. And so I read those 3 in a series. The first one's called A Reincarnated Friend Swims into My Ken on a Beach in Australia. Jeff, you are that jellyfish, dangling its tentacles, trolling the sea for bits of food, for squid to paralyze, made mostly of water, ghostly as you are, ghostly as after you were hit by that car, which was also after your motorcycle crash, and all the pins they'd put in you came loose. You fell apart, drunk, shambling on that road, you, the best drummer our high school ever saw, whose rim shots still ring in my ears. Now you vacuum the deep, working your way back up the karma scale, scalped Medusa without a body, floating translucent in the plankton-clouded warmth here near this beach. Maybe the way you treated girls, or maybe your blasphemies consigned you to this space, this niche in reincarnation. You will wash up on the shore and melt, then into another form, a fish perhaps, a seal, a tiny shark, and then on up. You're still dangerous. You still have lots of moves. A reincarnation of an old girlfriend keeps me awake at night. That owl hooting in the tree outside my bedroom window has to be you, Liz. How many flights and what a trail of fur and bone embedded in dung pellets led you here to the linden just past the wetland near my home. I could follow your pellet trail through rain and cold. It would be just like old times. My latest lover is asleep across from me in bed. I'm on the window side. You hoot. That's good. You're much more dangerous silent. Wings lined with down, you'll swoop, claws open, to crush an unsuspecting mouse nosing a grain of maize under the moon. He will realize in a fraction of a second what happened before the night around him swims into his eyes. I won't pun on you asking who. That's been overdone. You will swoop off into the night to hunt for flesh to tear. Once more, I will not hear you leave. And then the last one is, I discover the calico goldfish in my tank is a reincarnation of René Descartes. You once said, when a Calvinistic preacher denounced you for fathering an illegitimate child who subsequently died of scarlet fever, human foibles should be treated with charity and understanding, and no one living should disdain the mundane pleasures of love. Your thoughtful movements in this fish tank purgatory tipped me off. The angles and the logic of your swim told me it must be you. When sun lights the aquarium, you shine, speckled, magnificent. You do not think, yet you exist. The rudimentary paths of food and love are the currents in your mind. In the Netherlands, where Catholic and Protestant live side by side like the flecks of color in your fins, you thought and wrote. In the canals, fish caught your sight. Out by the windmills with Francine, your child, at Leyden on the dikes, you saw all paths converge. Encompassed in this tank, all circles become squares. And I would like to read a few from my book, again, Impossibility of Epithalamia, for sale over there. This first one is called revenant. Now, revenant is a word, a French word, and I've always thought it's a fascinating word because in French it means ghost. But then it also means a person who stays away from their village for maybe 40 years, then comes back. The same word, ghost. You know, a person is called that, so this is called revenant. I understand now. Years went by and you carved spaces out. You carved them without me. You homesteaded, defined a plot of new sweet grass in a windswept meadow by the sea. Here you have built a home, like the ideal farmhouse you saw the time passed when we drove back in from Pittsburgh. It sat on a hill. Its singularity filled you with love. If I should cross that threshold, I would be a revenant, a wanderer who has spent his life gone, then comes back from where he went, stranger, a ghostly curiosity, thinking he still might glimpse affection's spark shine in your eyes, but knows your eyes are dark. Now, this next one is called wabi-sabi. Wabi-sabi. Now, I got laughed at once at a poetry reading because, I said that this was a Japanese philosophy, and everybody laughed because they thought I meant wabi-sabi, which is a sauce. Okay, this is wabi-sabi, 2 words. And it is a Japanese Zen concept that means finding beauty in the commonplace and sort of the uneven. If you can take a walk and see some sticks and mud and appreciate the pattern in it, that's wabi-sabi. That's recognizing the beauty of nature. So wabi-sabi. Even discarded things, the dried out tufts of grass coated with frost, welter of sticks and mud, the roots of willow trees gnarled down to water, flotsam on a pond, the sway of berry bushes in the winter wind, can live as an extended miracle. The leaf, now only veins, blown, desiccated, up against a rock, sings subtle music out. I'll drink with you. These teacups, not quite round, rough on the bottom, pot with crooked spout, a hut of reeds, an orange glow of fire, and you there in coarse garments, one fine strand of graying hair against your cheek, fingers carved with the tasks of years. The grace you show, long practiced, is delight to crown the smoothed and well-used body that you lightly bear. At night the loud winds roar above our heads, above our shelter, harrying the stars. We wrap up in a blanket, tattered gray, the warmth of nakedness our shield against the cold. We are smooth stones made gentle by the flow of years that, rushing over us, took off our edges, polished us to be white like the moon, lost in the blackened sky. Whitefish Point, maybe many of you have been there in northern Michigan. So Whitefish Point, Michigan, June 2003. In the gray and wet, in fog thick like the sea, you walk a beach of bread-loaf stones, not made for bare feet, bruising tender filigree of fine nerve networks as your souls explode with pain and gouges. On this foggy rim by Lake Superior, the gull's cry cuts the air, the breaker's labor, foghorn's hymn. Clammy concerto, singing what abuts the bottom of the lake. The shipwreck hulks, ruined rusted frames where sturgeon probe and gawk. This is the place where nature broods and sulks. Fish stink, sunlight hides out, and lake fowl squawk. This is the place we came. This is denial. This is Land's End, hard rock. This is your style. Next poem is called Loss. I took a group of students over to Greece, and we spent a whole month in Greece. And this is a place called Nafplion, which is a really, really beautiful city. Sun-drenched, one of those places where they paint the houses turquoise and pink and beige, and get a beautiful view of the view of the sea there. And we get these little epiphanies in life occasionally. We get these times when we realize we've changed, and sometimes traveling in a different culture changes us. So, Loss, Nafplion, Greece, 2004. I left my passport in Crete, my sandals in a cheap hotel in Athens, my pleasing ways somewhere near Epidaurus. The vistas I saw from Acro-Corinth, the painful loveliness of the Samara Gorge, canceled longing for this or that. I grew content to lose, here, where losing is a way of life. How are we doing on time, David? Yeah, 2 more? Okay. I'll tell you what, 1 more. This is kind of long. So, okay, I'll finish up with, this is a sexy poem. I wasn't planning to end with that, but for the sake of time. This is a translation of 3 poems by Lady Knight. Now, Lady Knight was a Japanese author of pillow books, which are kind of erotic books that people keep by their bed, for obvious reasons. And she's the most famous writer, wrote during the, I think, 1700s, still read today. So this is my translation of three of her short poems. So 3 poems by Lady Night. 1. It's night again. My long black hair is down over my shoulders like a smooth silk gown. To you, sweet love, I open up my thighs and ask you, who behold me with your eyes, is there one part of me you see this night that is not lovely, bringing you delight? 2. I did not tie my sash over my gown. You called me to the window. The wind blew, and in its draught wide open my skirts flew. Blame the spring wind, that tricky, wanton clown. 3. The bare tree branches tremble in the breeze, so sharp and sudden as twilight descends. And over me my lover softly bends, and I am young and proud of my beauties. Thank you.
Is that Lady Murasaki?
Could be.
Yeah. Mursalata. How can I describe Mursalata? Let's maybe just go quickly. Current program coordinator of the Kent County Diaries Poetry Competition. She is the advisor to the African Student Organization, the Black Student Union, the Muslim Student Association. She has been awarded the Michigan Campus Compact Service Learning Award, and she is one of the goddesses of our service learning here at the college. She also serves community organizations like the Girl Scouts, the United Way, Kids Food Basket, and the Specialized Language Development Center. I hope you're getting the picture here. We've got a whirling dervish. Mursalata is coming in tonight. She's been sick all day, so we're very fortunate to have her. I myself, if I were to talk about her work, I guess I fell in love with it the first time because I'm a native Detroiter. We moved here when I was 7 years old, 6 years old, something like that, and Detroit remains my second home. She's a native Detroiter who grew up there. And there's that sense of the great city that has been kicked 1,000 times in a million different ways that still manages to stand up and keep on going. And that's one of the things I love about that town. People say they are going to write Detroit off bullshit. I'll say that right now. But and Mursalata captures that grittiness about as well as anyone I've ever known. I don't know if that's what she's going to read tonight, but when I retire, I'm hoping she'll take my place as our unofficial poet in residence here at the college. So, go ahead.
All right, thank you. I do have something. I've been sick since last week, Tuesday, so it's been a long route. I have not the flu, I just have flu-like symptoms, which is just an interesting place to be. I'm gonna pass out. I don't have all that I planned to have for you today, so, but I did bring something for you, and I'm gonna pass out these little cards, and I'll talk about them at the end. So I'm gonna. So, this is my smoky voice. So, I started a Twitter account, like, when I first heard about it, because I tend to do that, start stuff, just to see how it works. And I didn't have much use for it. I was like, this is dumb. So, and I told my daughter about it. I have 2 daughters. They're 15 and 17, and I have a nephew who lives with me now. He's 15. So I always tell my kids about the technology, so I could just beat them to it. And my daughter was like, well, Twitter's dumb. So that's when I first started a Twitter. But now she's tweeting all over the place, and I have to remind her that I told her about it, but I thought it was dumb too. So what I ended up doing, because I didn't really have that much to say on Twitter, was I wrote some poetry. So I used Twitter to write short poems. So here's one of the very first ones that I wrote. Well, I started to count like 3 years ago, never used it. And then this year, I'm like, I know what I could do. I can write poetry. That'll give it a purpose. So here's the first one that I wrote for New Year's. Into the new year you go charging, whimpering or reluctantly. However you go makes little difference. Time has never cared for your attitude. He walk cool, beats outlawed, not allowed to flow from hand to drum, run, slide, slide, ride, cross his hips, lingering long enough to make his glide, pause, dip, 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 he walk cool. No thing done in his story make his dip recover any faster than gravity's claim to hold the base of his foot to her flesh as long as she can. Grasping at temporary oneness they make together before the abrupt break. He walk cool. Release, letting go, foot rising inevitably from the plunge, pulling himself back away, canceling the event, only to leave unspoken promises of return again in every other step. He walk cool. Conductor for David Lockington and the Grand Rapids Symphony. Intensely movements burst, jerk, snap, glide, all quickly. He stands straighter than imagination. Dressed snugly, black tail swaying, reacting energy, releases instructions. His hands deliver unto horns, riding strings and winds. Where does he go? Standing there for all to see, where really is he? He cannot be here in the hall where in our seats our physical hearts pound. He's not there with us, facing the back of his head. Its tilts, its twists suggest he has done something different with space, time, sound, mind. Where does he go? Standing there for all to see, really, where does he be? Detroit. For David. Detroit. Like most overpeopled places, I'm a toilet. I stand before you without facade. I ain't got no identity hangups. My north side harbors once upon a gangster's left with only grandiose stories of Negro heydays, of singing and dancing and pushing and pimping. They ain't got nothing on east side young-blooded killers. Some don't know their fates, so they still ask, what's up, and play ball with you. My south side should have a neon sign. Welcome to wetback Hispanic Latino land, where the only thing separating them from the hood is a maybe Spanish accent. Bow-tied FOI accost you on the west side with fruit, bean pies, Muhammad speaks. Enough Malcolm X impersonation to remind one what they used to be. All over I breed people who forgone living any American greeting card lines, opting to hone skills that make survival a most profitable commodity. Women who don't love and those that do until it breaks noses, detaches retinas, kicks fetuses from wombs. Crime that's 100% equal opportunity, accompanied by unsexist police ass kickings. That said, give me my props. I once had paradise in an alley. Now I've got Joe Lewis's fist hovering above the place men meet. Giddy Muslim girl. In Detroit, we laughed as loud as Bosnian girls, giddy with childhood, drawing air deep into abdomens, readying ourselves for lives outside our control. In Detroit, I went to schools that separated church and state until my name was called, making me not want to be Mercilla Muhammad. Here, my reply, an identity crisis situation. My desire to be anywhere but here, swallowed whole by not knowing my religious discomfort was quite durable here, more so than under thumbnail rules of half men forcing once giddy girls to wear their crackpot doctrines disguised as gods. But in Detroit, my body was mostly occupied by blackness. So a comparison is no good unless you drop all adjectives and see us stripped from our giddiness, rendering us soil subject to global occupation. Here, Chahuli. This poem, this is a fun poem to write because we had a professional development day. You know you like those days, and if you're students, you'll look forward to liking those days one day too. And to get us all up for professional development day, we decided to not do it on campus. So we went to Frederick Meyer Garden. And then we had an exercise breaking from the professional development. Go do whatever you want to do. And there's a Chahuli chandelier. If you go there, it's right outside the cafeteria. So this is one that caught my attention. This was some years ago, too. So it's called Here, Chahuli. Here, in front of twisted, tangled turns, still in motion, but not. Here, the glass smears my color into forgetting nature's fragility of self. Here, wrapped up in sometimes grotesque movements of shape, curves of zen mince so close into each other. Here, they have forgotten they were once individual. I like the alphabet. And I think this week is the week I'm finally gonna write my letter to, I can't remember his name. He's been in every movie, whatever. But anyway, he was on Electric Company. No, Morgan Freeman, yes. So I've been saying I had to write Morgan Freeman because he was on Electric Company and they would do this silhouette and they would be in dark and one person would say buh and the other one would say at and they bat. And I thought that was like the coolest thing ever. Just amazed me. And I've been thinking like, why? I mean, yeah, you're a poet, you should like the alphabet, but I really, really like the alphabet. So they're just great. It's like only 26 letters and like, wow, so much stuff you can do. So I'm gonna read a couple about, the alphabet. This is called Want. All I want to do is use the alphabet and build myself a castle, and in it I'll sit, alone and content. And in it you'll find nothing but time, swelling up, bulging up with thoughts that are mine. Next, all I want to do is use the alphabet and build myself a mansion, and in it I'll sit, alone and uncontent, 'cause my thoughts are lonesome, brooding and unspent. All I want to do is use the alphabet and build myself a fortress, and in it I'll sit. and from it I'll spit words that form you, words that warn you, words that swallow up baby and storm you. All I want to do is use the alphabet and build myself a home, and in it I'll sit, and in it I'll be funky and free. When everybody's looking, I won't stop being me, but all I want to do is use the alphabet and build myself a skin, and in it I'll sit, and from it I'll spit. My soul won't surrender, 'cause then it will fit. For now and forever, it won't take no shit. And this is called, let's see if I can pronounce my words today, Loved Indigenously. I want to be loved indigenously. Come give me some reciprocity. I think that's the best way for you and me. Native respect given effortlessly, unspoken, just known. Discarding all other roles, we curl into each other, seeking to know the world, then break free. Go about our duties until time comes to fill out ourselves. My skin for you, your skin for me. I need to be loved indigenously, the kind nature gives, full of reciprocity. I just have I think just two more, so keep your two on. This one is called Root. Some of my poems have stories, so here's a little root story. I did a lot of research for this poem. I tend sometimes to do a lot of research for poetry, and it's like a love really dislike situation, because you do all this stuff and then you get this little short poem. You're like, oh my God, I didn't just research for 8 months. Really? That's all I got. But this was like a cram session. I had the opportunity to work with Ishmael Reed and other artists, and this was really great because it's like getting to work with your star person, your idol, or whatever that might be. So, but he came into the room, and we're all like, yes. And he said, well, today I want you to write a poem about a fruit or a vegetable, and then he left. And then we were like, you know how little kids start to whisper, like, are you serious? That's it? That's all? So first we just freaked out, and then we went to the other end. I went way to the other end, like, okay, this must has to be like Terrifico or something. So this is what I got out of it. Excuse me. I am root, growing wild, waiting, deep in Andean plateau mountainous regions, Peru. Unbeckoning with no luscious fruit, grain, berry to pluck. No sweet scents, tempting salivations, readying to devour my flesh. I am root, waiting in times that knew no record, just truth. Waiting for pre-Incas to discover tributes to my presence, thriving where maize y trigo wither. I am root, with eyes everywhere, noting Incan cultivations, allowing my sprouts to grab tighter this earth. I am root, eyeing civilized keepers of days who entangle me in war. 1537, no one shouted, aquí estoy, conquistadores, come find me. Yank me, pack me away with other found items, gold, art, people, proofs that there is a new world closer to heaven, further from Europe. My 17th century roots my truth buried in God's earth, food to the masses, my skins paled to brown, delivered them when they were tribal, German, British, Persian, Hanoverian against Austrian, French, Russian, Saxon, Swedish, Spanish. 7 years entangled in each other's lust, I sustained Anton August Permetil well in Germany's belly. He took it upon himself to reintroduce me to France. Where the dish bears his name, you taste my flesh. Failing to murder each other, I am the root you forced to center spot, renaming this ethnic conflict the potato war. You raid your enemy's food supply where I lie. Only me you consume in hopes of eating them to death, while they do the same to you. For God, I feed everyone or no one. I am root, sustaining friend and foe, Britain through Napoleon, World War I, II, feeding 5 times that of wheat. Of me you write, propagate a murderer, participant in genocide. I killed 1 million Irish, more. Me, not British imperialism. Me, not white on white crime. And there's one. This is called Hey. Hey, little brother. Hey, little brother, how you gonna navigate the waters of your future if you don't understand your past? If you don't understand your present, your day, how do you ever expect to see tomorrow? Hey, little sister. Hey, little sister. Hey, little sister, how you gonna navigate the waters of knowledge if you don't understand? If you don't understand that knowledge is something created socially by people you don't know, how do you know what you know? You know? Hey, mother. Hey, mother. Hey, mother. How you gonna navigate the waters of love? If you're so busy loving every man who crosses your path, how do you ever expect to teach me to love what I see in the mirror? Hey, Father. Hey, Father. Hey, Father. How you gonna navigate the waters of freedom if you're so busy sticking every bad thing that has ever happened to you into your knapsack you call a legacy? How do you ever expect me to be free? Hey, all you people. Hey, all you people. Hey, all you people. How you gonna navigate your waters? And then my last one that I just did today on Twitter is dedicated to my flu-like symptoms. Flu-like symptoms carry me too far into the mechanics of a blink, a breath, and movement of my eyes across a sunset.